what are apparently the first pages of it, the foreword. And here's some of it. Disloyal, the foreword. The President of the United States wanted me dead. Or let me say it the way Donald Trump would. He wouldn't mind if I was dead. That was how Trump talked, like a mob boss, using language carefully calibrated to convey his desires and demands, while at the same time employing deliberate indirection to insulate himself. Driving south from New York City to Washington, D.C. on I-95 on the cold, gray winter morning of February 24th, 2019, en route to testify against President Trump before both houses of Congress, I knew he wanted me gone before I could tell the nation what I know about him. Not the billionaire celebrity savior of the country, or the lying lunatic, not the tabloid tycoon or self-anointed chosen one, not the avatar at real Donald Trump of Twitter fame, but the real Donald Trump, the man very, very, very few people know. If that sounds overly dramatic, consider the powers Trump possessed and imagine how you might feel if he threatened you personally. Heading south that day, I wondered if my prospects for survival were also going in that direction. I was acutely aware of the magnitude of Trump's fury aimed directly at my alleged betrayal. I was wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, and I kept the speedometer at 80, avoiding the glances of other drivers. Trump's theory of life, business, and politics revolves around threats and the prospect of destruction, financial, electoral, personal, physical, as a weapon. I knew how he worked because I had frequently been the one screaming threats on his behalf as Trump's fixer and designated thug. Ever since I'd flipped and agreed to cooperate with Robert Mueller in the special counsel's office, the death threats had come by the hundreds, on my cell phone, by email, snail mail, and tweets on Facebook, enraged Trump supporters vowing to kill me. And I took those threats very seriously. The president called me a rat and tweeted angry accusations at me as well as my family. All rats deserve to die, I was told. I was a low-life Judas they were going to hunt down. I was driving because I couldn't fly or take the train to Washington. If I had, I was sure I'd be mobbed or attacked. For weeks, walking the streets of Manhattan, I was convinced somebody was going to ram me with their car. I was exactly the person Trump was talking about when he said he could shoot and kill someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. My mind was spinning as I sped toward D.C. For more than a decade, I'd been at the center of Trump's innermost circle. When he came to my son's bar mitzvah, a generous gesture that I found touching, he told my then 13-year-old boy that his dad was the greatest, and that if he wanted to work at the Trump Organization when he grew up, there would always be a position for him. Your family, Trump said to my son. And I effing believed him. Sitting in the green room on the morning of my testimony before the House Oversight Committee, I began to feel the enormous weight of what was about to happen. For some reason, after all that I'd been through and all that I put my family and the country through, waiting in that room was the moment when the gravity of what was about to happen truly hit home. The United States was being torn apart, its political and cultural and mental well-being threatened by a clear and present danger named Donald Trump. And I had played a central role in creating this new reality. To half of Americans, it seemed like Trump was effectively a Russian-controlled fraud who had lied and cheated his way into the White House. To the other half of Americans, to Trump's supporters, the entire Russia scandal was a witch hunt invented by Democrats still unable to accept the fact that Hillary Clinton had lost fair and square in the most surprising upset in the history of American presidential elections. Both sides were wrong. I knew that the reality was much more complicated and dangerous. Trump had colluded with the Russians, but not in the sophisticated ways imagined by his detractors. I also knew that the Mueller investigation was not a witch hunt. Trump had cheated in the election with Russian connivance, as you will discover in these pages. Because doing anything, and I mean anything, to win has always been his business model and his way of life. Trump had also continued to pursue a major real estate deal in Moscow during the campaign. He attempted to insinuate himself into the world of President Vladimir Putin and his coterie of corrupt billionaire oligarchs. I know because I personally ran that deal and kept Trump and his children closely informed of all updates, even as the candidate blatantly lied to the American people, saying there's no Russian collusion, I have no dealings with Russia. The one thing I can say with absolute certainty is that whatever you may have heard or thought about me, you don't know me or my story or the Donald Trump that I know. For more than a decade, I was Trump's first call every morning and his last call every night. I was in and out of Trump's office on the 26th floor of the Trump Tower as many as 50 times a day, tending to his every demand. Our cell phones had the same address books, our contacts so entwined, overlapping, and intimate that part of my job was to deal with the endless queries and requests, however large or small, from Trump's rich and famous acquaintances. I called any and all of the people he spoke to, most often on his behalf as his attorney and emissary, and everyone knew that when I spoke to them, it was as good as if they were talking directly to Trump. Apart from his wife and children, I knew Trump better than anybody else did. In some ways, I knew him better even than his family did, because I bore witness to the real man in strip clubs, shady business meetings, and in the unguarded moments when he revealed who he really was: a cheat, a liar, a fraud, a bully, a racist, a predator, a con man. There are reasons why there has never been an intimate portrait of Donald Trump the man. In part, it's because he has a million acquaintances and pals and hangers-on, but no real friends. He has no one he trusts to keep his secrets. For 10 years, he certainly had me, and I was always there for him. And look what happened to me. I urge you to really consider that fact. Trump has no true friends. He has lived his entire life avoiding and evading taking responsibility for his actions. He crushed or cheated all who stood in his way. But I know where the skeletons are buried, because I was the one who buried them. When Trump wanted to reach Russian President Vladimir Putin via a secret back channel, I was tasked with making the connection in my Keystone Cop fashion. I stiffed contractors on his behalf. I ripped off his business partners. I lied to his wife Melania to hide his sexual infidelities, and bullied and screamed at anyone who threatened Trump's path to power. From golden showers in a sex club in Vegas, to tax fraud, to deals with corrupt officials from the former Soviet Union, to catch and kill conspiracies to silence Trump's clandestine lovers. I wasn't just a witness to the president's rise, I was an active and eager participant. As you read my story, you will no doubt ask yourself if you like me, or if you would act as I did. And the answer will frequently be no to both of those questions. But permit me to make a point. If you only read stories written by people you like, you will never be able to understand Donald Trump or the current state of the American soul. More than that, it's only by actually understanding my decisions and actions that you can get inside Trump's mind and understand his worldview. As anyone in law enforcement will tell you, it's only gangsters who can reveal the secrets of organized crime. If you want to know how the mob really works, you've got to talk to the bad guys. I was one of Trump's bad guys. In these dangerous days, I see the Republican Party and Trump's followers threatening the Constitution, which is in far greater peril than is commonly understood. I see them following one of the worst impulses of humankind, the desire for power at all costs. Now, sitting alone in an upstate New York prison, wearing my green government-issued uniform, I've begun writing this story longhand on a yellow legal pad. I've often written before dawn, so not to be disturbed in my thoughts when my fellow inmates awoke. I had to report to the sewage treatment plant where some of us worked for a wage of $8 a month. As the months passed by and I thought about this man I knew so well, I became even more convinced that Trump will never leave office peacefully. The types of scandals that have surfaced in recent months will only continue to emerge with greater and greater levels of treachery and deceit. If Trump wins another 4 years, these scandals will prove to be only the tip of the iceberg. I'm certain that Trump knows he will face prison time if he leaves office, the inevitable cold karma to the notorious chance of lock her up. But that's the Trump I know, in a nutshell. He projects his own sins and crimes onto others, partly to distract and confuse, but mostly because he thinks everyone is as corrupt and shameless and ruthless as he is. It's a poisonous mindset I know all too well. Whoever follows Trump into the White House, if the president doesn't manage to make himself the leader for life, as he has started to joke about, and Trump never actually jokes, whoever follows him into the White House will discover a tangle of frauds and scams and lawlessness. Trump and his minions will do anything to cover up that reality, and I mean anything. I have lost many things as a consequence of my decisions and mistakes, including my freedom. But I still retain the right to tell this story about the true threat to our nation and the urgent message for the country it contains. It's signed Michael Cohen, writing at the time from Otisville Federal Prison in Otisville, New York. Now,